talk firstly about the crossroads of queerness and Latinidad. Being Latinx is not a monolithic experience by any means, but I can share some of my experience. I grew up in a pretty conservative set of white suburbs where to be POC and survive, white assimilation was the rule. My Puerto Rican family abandoned Santeria for Catholicism and Christianity, so I was no stranger to the anti-gay rhetoric that comes with that. I mistakenly thought that it was something that came with being Puerto Rican. I carried my queerness and fear with me as I would go to family parties in Brooklyn where it was all salsa and smooth swivels. I was never quite able to let go of that, never quite able to dance. It was through queer dance culture that I have learned to love where my brownness and queerness meet. And I'm still an awkward dancer, but I am learning my body the way we all are. The club represents sanctuary. This is where queer and trans bodies are in motion, whose gestures and fluctuations speak their own languages of freedom, terror, ecstasy, and becoming, can absolve themselves of guilt and pain. We see the social barriers that entrap us daily being dissolved. We are stripped bare, exposed in the states of our purest desires and longings for freedom and love. It is a disgrace that this place of sanctuary and bodies and all their holiness was desecrated and destroyed. I have come to realize that my family never truly hated my queerness, but were afraid for my safety. There's already a terror and otherness that comes with being non-white, having a body that is contested by default and escapes standards of white perfection and normality. When you add gayness and transness on top of that, goddamn do folks get trigger happy. I am terrified. I am mostly scared for my little sister, a Boricua trans girl who above all loves bugs and the internet, but one day might find herself wanting to dance, something she's secretly very good at. I hope the club can hold her safely. I want to remind everybody once more of some largely neglected facts. It was Latinx night at Pulse. 90% of victims were Latinx, most of them were Puerto Rican. Some of those people were forced to migrate to Florida because of the colonization of Puerto Rico. And 100% of the victims were queer and trans people of color. Trans women of color were headlining this event. Ignoring these facts and omitting them from your discussion is a continued act of violence against QTPOC, who are not strangers to displacement and slaughter. I have no intent of disregarding folks' very authentic pain that transcends race. This event reflects a history of violence and trauma that the entire LGBTQIA community has to answer to again and again. But acknowledging intersectionality requires understanding the point at which identities intersect. In this case, it was where queerness and Latinidad merged to create its own unique brand of other. The idea that these bodies could be our own is terrifying and true on too many occasions, but it is not true for white queers in this instance. It was black and brown Latinx blood the shooter was after. I am not asking anybody to stifle their feelings. Frankly, I'd be terrified and confused if folks were unaffected by this murder. I am only asking of white queer allies and family that these feelings be respectfully channeled into empathy and rage for an experience that you do not walk with. Be grateful that this could not have been you. Recognize how whiteness, even when paired with queerness, can afford some level of safety in many cases. I am asking, begging that this event be used as an opportunity to reflect on the terrors faced by your queer and trans siblings of color, who are, according to recent statistics, the victims of 80% of anti-LGBT hate crimes. Carry the names of the dead aloud today in your hearts and fight for those living. Center the voices of queer and trans people of color. To my cutie pop family, te quiero tanto with my whole glittery gay heart. We dance through this world together, even in death.